Good morning. Welcome to Thursday, the 21st of May. And it is just a great time to be alive because every breath that we have is really a gift from God. And that's why I think the psalmist said, let everything that has breath, praise the Lord. We've been given this breath by God. I was reading in Acts 25 today, and there's not a lot in Acts 25 in terms of Paul talking about who God is or Paul doing much talking at all. But what really struck me was the hardships that Paul has had to endure up until this point, and even through this particular chapter. Here's a guy that has been wrongfully accused, just recently wrongfully accused and imprisoned for 2 years. And then when Felix, who had Paul under house arrest for a couple of years, he was out of the picture, and Festus took over. Festus wanted to do a favor to the Jews who still, after 2 years, wanted to see Paul dead. They did not want to see Paul punished, or because he was already being punished. He was already in prison. They wanted to see him dead. Even after 2 years, this was still a huge a thing for the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem. And so, I mean, this just tells you, this gives you an idea of the animosity and the loathing that they had towards Paul, because Paul preached the gospel, and he preached in the resurrection of Jesus Christ as the promised Messiah. And certainly it was a threat to to the system, the religious leaders' system. However, man, they were upset on many counts at the fact that Gentiles are actually being included in this gospel, that salvation wasn't to the Jews only, and they hated him. But yet, in all of those hardships, what we find in the narrative here is that Paul had more opportunity to share the gospel. I mean, he got to share the gospel to Felix. He got to share the gospel to Festus when Festus replaced Felix as governor. And then King Agrippa comes into the mix. Now, chapter 26 is where we get into Paul's defense before King Agrippa. But and in chapter 25, Paul sniffs out this plot that's happening between Felix and the Jewish leaders to try to get Paul to appeal to go to Jerusalem and be on trial there, because they were just planning on killing him. We're going to get rid of him. If you just let him come to Jerusalem, we'll take care of it. Paul sniffed that out, and Paul actually appealed to Caesar. And so we find in chapter 25 that's going to be where Paul is ultimately going to head, is to have a trial before Caesar himself. Opportunity. I mean, you think about that. You get to share the gospel to the most powerful man on the face of the earth at the time. What an incredible opportunity. And that's just it. I mean, hardships, every hardship that Paul went through brought new opportunity to share Christ with others, to share the gospel. And I think about that in our own lives. Man, we got a lot of hardships, whether it is COVID-19, whether it is the economic challenges that we're facing right now. Everything is different. We have a lot of mental distress among folks. There is, we have a flood that we're contending with. My own daughter's house is surrounded by water as we speak. A lot of hardships. in our world today, I think about the people in Midland and the dams that have breached there and the flooding that's taking place there. There's a lot of hardships right now that we are experiencing, and I guess we can look at hardships and say, I hate them, and really be bitter towards those hardships. The reality is, we'll always have hardships, and I would just challenge you to look at how God might be repurposing those hardships, how He might be using those hardships for His glory, how He might be opening up opportunities for you to share the gospel, to share Christ with others through these hardships. He certainly did that with the Apostle Paul, and He's done that all throughout history, and He'll continue to do it today. God bless.